Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by. Today I was going to show you a couple things about side escapement planes, so stick around. Alright, so the first thing we need to talk about with planes are wedges. Wedges show up everywhere when you're dealing with wooden planes. In this case they'll hold in the plane iron, but you also can find them holding in knickers, holding in wedged arms. So what I've got here is basically, this is a fixture that I use for thicknessing wedges, but I can kind of show you what's going on here in the mouth of this plane. So the first thing is, obviously this is tapered. This is about 10 degrees plus or minus 2 degrees. You'll find these anywhere from 8-ish to 12 degrees. The other thing that's maybe not immediately obvious is the plane iron is also tapered. So if we take a look at this, measure it, it's 128 thousandths in this direction, so roughly 1/8 of an inch within a few thou. And that's right at 1/16 of an inch at 625, or 62.5 thousandths. So when we want to hold the iron in place, we'll tap on the wedge here, push it in a little bit, and before you know it, you've got something that's really holding on for dear life. So the nice thing is, with this opposing wedge setup, is since it's a sticker, if you tap on the finial here, it'll all just come right out easily. Let's take a look at the parts of the plane here. So we've got your heel and your toe, just like your foot. We've got this wedge, of course. This is called the finial. So that's basically like one of the calling cards. This finial is basically like one of the calling cards of any kind of plane maker. Each plane maker typically has their own design. You've got this escapement where the shavings come out. So we can take this plane iron out, just like we talked about, just tapping on this tang. Alright, so here's the plane iron. We've got the tang, we've got the bit. So this long skinny part here is the tang, this is the bit. This is the business end down here. Okay, so let's talk about adjusting these guys. When you want to adjust these, put the plane iron in, the way I like to do that is I'll just load the plane iron up here. Be careful with that sharp edge. I'll use my thumb, push it against the bit, and then I can sight down the sole and I can adjust the projection of the plane iron however I want. So I'm looking for just the slightest halo to show, and leave my thumb on there and just use this nice little curve and tighten it right up. And so what I like to do is I like to start out with a nice shallow cut, and I'll give a little more iron tapping on the wedge here if need be. So whenever you tap on the iron, you also need to tighten the wedge. So I'll just keep doing that, and if I go too far, I'll just take it out, start over, and do the same thing. So you can see the projection. Let's see, get it to focus in on that. I'm just looking for a nice little halo all the way across. The other way to look at this is Newton's third law. So for every action, there's a equal and opposite reaction. So if you think about tapping it here, everything wants to stay where it is, including the plane iron. So if I tap it here, the plane iron wants to stay where it's at, but the plane body wants to go forward, so you're retracting the iron. Similarly, if I tap it here, I'm forcing the plane iron down, or the plane body down, and the plane irons, wants to stay where it is. So it also essentially retracts the iron. If I want to give it more iron, I can hit it on the toe. So again, the plane iron wants to stay where it is. The plane body is shocked backwards, and the plane iron ends up projecting out further. So if you're going to do that, the one thing I would recommend is using a soft-faced hammer, just so you don't mess up your plane. Okay, so lubrication. One thing if you can make it easier on yourself, why not? So two things I like to use for lubrication on these guys are something like paraffin wax or canning wax. So this is a little block of canning wax I've had in the shop for a while. Or here's something else you can use is mutton tallow. And you just rub a little bit on your plane. So what you want to do is take some wax and just give it a few swipes here. What I'm not trying to do is, you see I went from the heel to the toe. I'm trying to keep the wax out of this mouth. Got to keep that out of there. Otherwise, you're going to have your plane iron and your wedge sliding around or freeing up, and that's what you don't want to have. You want to have that nice and tight while you're using the plane. All right, thanks for checking this out, and I hope you got something out of it. If you have questions, leave comments and I'll try to answer. Also, be sure to check out my website, newheritagewoodworks.com, if you're looking for any of these tools. Thanks.